Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Russ Jones.
And Mr. Brad Kennan.
And we are wide open. How are you, my friend?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. I'm feeling good today. Yeah.
You're always
excited.
So excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. I was in the woods today.
Because I don't have the shoulders that you do. I've been thinking, I've been going, and I keep thinking this one thing. If you want to have big shoulders, you just have to lift heavy shit.
Exactly.
So that's all. So I'm going with the Mike Metzger, I think's his name, kind of philosophy a little bit.
Yeah. He was kind of a legend when you and I were growing up.
Yeah, just you don't do 3 sets of 12 and 4 sets of 10. You lift a whole bunch of, you do one little warm up and you lift a whole bunch of weight until you can't do it about 6 times, and then you move on.
I mean, he looked awesome until you got to that era where everybody was doing all the whole steroid thing and the Arnold thing, and then everybody started looking different.
Right, exactly. So I've been trying that.
Have you ever went to the Arnold in Columbus and saw those guys in person? I mean, they are incredibly freaky looking. I remember one time, that's escaping me, the guy that won it, like Jay Cutler won it like a bunch of years in a row.
With the quads.
Yeah, I asked him, I was standing there and I heard him tell 2 little boys, they asked him about eating vegetables, and he said, "I'll eat a vegetable when someone proves it gives me muscle."
I remember Arnold Schwarzenegger one time said that if dog crap could give me one pound of muscle or something, he said I'd eat as much as I could. You know what I mean? Just like he's like, if I'd eat dog crap, I would do it to get muscle.
Did I tell you I met him? No. I don't know if I told you that. So, at one point, this has been years ago, I used to have several of these female bodybuilders. I did their nutrition for them. And so at the Arnold, if you're like one of those people, they invite you and you have lunch. And I don't know how many people, there's like 30 or 40 people at lunch. And then you kind of get to go around and, shake hands with them and talk to them for a minute. And so you remember there used to be this black bodybuilder named Lee Haney, and he had these enormous arms. And I told Arnold, I said, I'd like to get biceps like Lee Haney. And he looked at me and he said, "Get better genetics."
I remember
I met him one time. He was dumping on me.
We had a Swedish exchange student at our house for like a year. She lived with us for a year, and she went to the Arnold and met Arnold, and she started talking Swedish to him because he's like from Finland or something. They both spoke the same language, so she started talking to him and they had this. She's got pictures of her talking to Arnold in some conversation in their native tongue and blah blah blah. And so, but
he probably loved that.
I'm sure he did. Yeah. Once again, as my son would say, they all have an advantage. The S word.
Yeah.
They're short.
Yeah. Yeah. He was, I want to say maybe
he's not tall. He's not tall.
Yeah. He's not tall.
He's 5.
We were talking about, you and I were listening to a Joe Rogan, interview before we came on where he was talking about Bigfoot, and you said that he was not large. How short is he, or how tall is he?
I think he's 5'8", because I'm 6'2", and I was thinking, man, he's 6 inches shorter than I am.
And Tom Cruise is like really
5'2",
statured,
5'3".
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, that's a good thing about Hollywood, right? You're whatever size.
Right, exactly. So anyway, I had something to talk about, but I got completely sidetracked, and it was Bigfoot related. So we did the Ohio Bigfoot Conference went fine. We talked about that.
Mm-hmm. What about the small town monster thing?
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, you did that, right?
Yeah, we didn't talk about it. Remember
we
got on another subject last week or something. We talked about Ohio the whole time.
Okay.
So like the week before, I was with the small town monsters in Western North Carolina,
right,
to do a documentary called On the Trail of Ancients, which normally it takes like 8 or 9 months for these documentaries to come out. I think they're under contract for this one, and so it's going to be released in July, I think. And I kind of know they were starting to work on it immediately, but I was down there with Matt Pruitt, and I stayed together the whole time, and we're together there, like 3 or 4 days. Matt and I we talk often. We're good friends, but we had never been in the woods together. So, you know, they'd say, you guys have an interview at 9 and 10 and you're free until 4. And we were, you know, we were staying in this big cabin right on the edge of this national forest. And him and I would just go out there and hang, look around, took the film crew out at night. It was really a good time. Awesome. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. One thing I will say about this, I want to complain because, you know, they have Heather that is their fixer. Sure. And Heather, this is what she did to me. She's like, hey, we're going to interview you. We're going to do it upstairs in the loft. I'm like, oh, gosh, it's really hot up there because the air conditioner wasn't working right. And so I go up there. They want me in a long sleeve shirt so it doesn't like blend into the mountain scenery in my background or whatever.
Sure.
You know, so I'm doing that. It's like 750 degrees. I'm sweating through this whole hour-long interview. Well, then they're like, okay, we're going to do Pruitt in like 15 or 20 minutes. Well, then 15 or 20 minutes come out. They come and get him. They do him on this shady spot outside on this deck with a gentle breeze blowing through.
You know, Russ, if you didn't have bad luck, you would have no luck at all.
I know. I mean, right?
Right.
So
they knew, you know, they knew you could handle it.
I told them, you know, if it didn't turn out perfect, it was beyond my control.
You're basically the Navy SEAL of Bigfooting.
The Navy SEAL of Bigfoot. Man, that moniker, you know, we should have a shirt made up or something. I mean, you are wearing the shirt, the wide open shirt, you know, wide open.
Don't complain. I gave you 2 of them, except a 2XL will not fit you. Not my problem.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, your shoulders are bigger than mine.
Hey, who you got to talk to today?
So we have a Texas Bigfoot legend. Not actually Bigfoot himself.
Okay.
Mr. Craig Woolheater is joining the show, and he's going to be on audio, so we're not going to see his face, but this is what Craig looks like, and this is a famous Bigfoot of, would you say Fulton or what county was this? Jefferson.
Marion County, Texas.
Marion. Okay.
Is a safe refuge for Bigfoot, and the county seat where the statue is Jefferson, which is the Bigfoot capital of Texas.
So, unlike which we were talking before the show, I actually do read about my guests, but Russ likes to say that I don't. So, you were driving 175 miles north of New Orleans on a 2-lane road in Alexandria, Louisiana, when you had a sighting, a suspected sighting. When you were
I was about 40 miles southeast of Alexandria, but yes.
Okay. And the only reason I'm bringing this up, because I have crews right now putting fiber between Alexandria and Leesville, Louisiana, so I know exactly where it's at. Yes. So I know exactly where it's at. So
I should have had you interview me on location.
I'm not there. I'm in Ohio. My guys don't like me to get around them because they say that I slow them down. So I avoid going out to the field with them. I'm a sales guy.
Have you been down there before, Brad, to that area, Louisiana?
Yeah, I have. We did a bunch of work down in that area, and it is very remote, and it is a lot of woods, and there's a lot of swamps, and it's pretty interesting. It's very, very squatchy, very squatchy.
Yes, I did a recreation out there with Bobo back for an episode of Finding Bigfoot that was Beast of the Bayou. I don't know what season it was, but it was filmed in January of 2014 and aired later that year originally.
So are you the founding member of the Texas Bigfoot Research Center?
Yeah,
TBRC?
co-founding member.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That was,
so you're in Texas.
The organization went live on actually June 26th of 99. The sighting event happened it's coming up in about 2 weeks. The 25th anniversary of it. It was May 30th of 1994.
Okay.
Craig, do you ever feel drawn to go back to that same spot? I know I had a couple different experiences, and I always feel a pull when I'm in that area to go look around again.
Well, I had never been back until we actually went and filmed the recreation for Finding Bigfoot in 2014. So it was, at that point, it had happened 20 years previously, but I have been back several times. Back in 2019, we had a weekend long kind of 25th anniversary celebration that was put on by a couple of other Bigfoot research organizations. It hosted an event at a nearby state park there that we camped out that weekend and went to the site where it actually took place, and I recounted it for the folks that were attending. And I've been by several times since then. It's when I drive from Texas to New Orleans, I will veer off of the main interstate to drive through that small town. The town called Bunkie, Bunkie, is actually about 8-10 miles north west of where the sighting location is, and then Alexandria is about another 25 miles from there.
Okay.
But it happened at about 11:30 at night. This was pre pre GPS, pre Google Maps, pre MapQuest or anything like that. So we had left for Memorial Day weekend from Dallas, me and some friends, my youngest brother, my girlfriend at the time. We had just plotted the course on a road map, and the interstate that's there now, Interstate 49, was not there at that time. So we were on Highway 71, which coincidentally that's in Louisiana, but Highway 71 actually turns north there in Shreveport and travels to Texarkana, and Highway 71 on that portion of it is runs smack through Fouke, Arkansas, where the Legend of Boggy Creek was filmed, and that's only probably a little over 2 hours from where the location where I saw this was. Maybe 2.5, 3 hours north of there was Fouke, Arkansas, with the Legend of Boggy Creek, which was a very big, one of the first things that influenced me as a kid to be interested in the subject was the Legend of Boggy Creek.
So how long have you been doing this?
Well, like I said, the very first thing that got my interest when I was a kid, I was interested in the strange and unusual, and dinosaurs and ghosts and paranormal stuff and UFOs and all that. And in the summer of 1969, well, I guess I'll be telling how old I am. I was 9 years old that summer, and there was a creature. I lived in the Dallas area. My grandparents lived in Fort Worth, but the summer of '69 was the summer of the Lake Worth monster, which took place in Fort Worth, only about 20 minutes total from downtown Fort Worth. And it was on the front page of the newspaper, the local newspaper there, on July 10th and July 11th, about several couples in a car that were attacked by this thing, leapt onto the car and scratched up the car, and they, took off into town, all scared. And it was
So was there proof on the vehicle that this thing had
there was an
jumped on
18-inch long scratch down the side of the vehicle. The next night after this happened, there was lots of people gathered out there because the story had been in the newspaper, and they witnessed it again, running around up on the rim of this kind of a pit area where it had grabbed a wheel and tire and hurled it at the people, anywhere from 300 to 500 feet. It was
Dang.
actually even witnessed by law enforcement personnel. But that night, the next night, I believe the number is between 30 and 40 people actually saw it. And my grandparents saved the front page of the newspaper for me because I had a scrapbook and, put all kinds of weird articles in there. And so that's what really got my interest started. Actually, a month later from this, a woman that was investigating these things actually self-published a book that I got when I went up to the convenience store. And, it was on the wire rack like the comic books. This book cost $2. And I still remember, buying that book and reading that book. And my grandparents had a cabin cruiser boat out on the lake that was separated by a dam from Lake Worth, which was Eagle Mountain Lake, which was upriver and separated by a dam from Lake Worth. And I remember, we'd go out in the summer and spend, the weekend on the boat, anchored out in the middle of the lake. And it was something that always was in the back of my mind. That was something that was going to happen. It was going to run across. And then the next year after that, a kid brought a cool book to school, and it was John Keel's Strange Creatures from Time and Space that came out in 1970 with a very cool cover by Frank Frazetta that detailed different creatures from around the world. One chapter which was about the Mothman, and this was still 5 years before his book, The Mothman Prophecies, came out. And then, like I said, a couple years later, in 1973, once The Legend of Boggy Creek, made national distribution, even though I wasn't that far away in Dallas from Texarkana, but it was the year after it came out before it received nationwide distribution, and saw it in the Dallas area, in the theater as a kid of 13, but actually didn't see it at the drive-in. I saw it actually at a, indoor theater. So those three things really cemented my interest as a kid in the subject of, weird creatures. I didn't know the term cryptozoology certainly at that time, and the Patterson film had only been out 6 years before then. So in the South and down here, it wasn't really, the term Bigfoot or Sasquatch wasn't even used. I mean, it was, like the wild man of the woods or the booger man or, whatever that, parents would tell their kids, don't stay out after dark or the booger man will get you or whatever, but was typically what these things were called down here in Texas and Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma.
Hey, let me ask you a question, Craig.
Well,
I haven't asked
you
anybody.
probably have interviewed.
Go ahead, Brad.
Go ahead.
Okay. Craig, I was curious.
I was going to say, everybody loves stories, so I'm sure you've. Are we having an audio issue here?
I guess we're lagging. One of us is lagging, either me or you.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. I was curious. I've never asked anybody this, even though we've interviewed a lot of people from other regions of the country. Do you believe that there's any truth that the southern Bigfoot are more aggressive than our more northern counterparts?
No. I mean, of the hundreds of people that I have interviewed over the years, I don't have one credible report of anybody being harmed, injured. I mean, I've heard stories, but I've never actually talked to anyone. That I did interview one lady, and I still don't know how credible her story was. Basically, that she and her husband had been out driving around, may have been a boyfriend, but a truck had broke down and run out of gas in an area where there were reported sightings. He walked back to go get assistance, and she stayed in the truck, and she claimed to have seen 3 Bigfoots approach, and she said one male, much larger, 2 obvious females that were smaller in size, that she could, said that she could detect that they had breasts, and that the male walked up to the truck and reached in and actually grabbed her by the leg. And she said that she was laying down in the front seat of the pickup, and she grabbed a Coke bottle. I don't remember what year this was, but it's been quite some time ago. That probably back in the day when we had if you remember, the 16-ounce big heavy glass Coke bottles with the screw top lid.
Yeah.
That she picked one of those up out of the floorboard and hit its hand on several times, and then it let go and left her alone. She said that she suffered some scratches on her leg that she had scars from, but that was the extent of the injury. But that's the only person I've ever talked to that has ever claimed to have been, harassed, if you even want to call that something that reached in and grabbed her. But, and I was just posting this on Facebook today. Somebody posted somewhere that said they lived out in West Texas, and they wanted to know what type of Bigfoot, were out there. And, and I posted the whole deal about people that claim there's 4, 8, 10, whatever different types of Sasquatch. There's the ones with human faces, and the ones with ape faces, the ones with snouts, and this, that, and the other. And that's all just speculation, just people pulling stuff out of the rear end, because there's no way. I quoted Bergman's rule, which states that, wildlife, the closer to the equator, and the closer to the equator, the smaller and less hair covered animals are. I mean, you can look, I don't know if you guys are deer hunters, but the white-tailed deer up in Ohio compared to the white-tailed deer down here in Texas are probably twice as big, twice as heavy. I mean, that's just a rule of nature, is that the closer or the farther away from the equator they are, larger, have more body fat, more hair to stay warm. And I think any differences that people claim to have noticed or claim to think they know or whatever are just regional differences, adaptations to their surroundings, like, the skunk ape or swamp ape in Florida or whatever. I think that it's probably just something that's adapted to its surrounding, just like many types of animals and wildlife adapt to their surroundings over time, and are not, I don't think, different species, or, whatever, however you want to classify a different type or a different kind. So I don't know. Maybe the summers down here, maybe they do get a little more ornery, dealing with the heat down here when it's 110 degrees in the summer versus, up in the Pacific Northwest where, it's raining all the time, and, high temperatures are in the 70s or 80s, maybe even.
And if they're around Oregon or Portland, the weeds kind of wafting into the area and
Right.
calming them down.
Yeah.
That was my question, or that was I was going to ask. I said, you must have interviewed 1,000 people. Have you interviewed anybody?
Probably not 1,000, but probably not 1,000, but I know well over 300 people, witnesses.
Okay, so over 300 witnesses. There's got to be somebody that you just said, "Holy crap, that was awesome!
Sure.
I can't wait to get this on paper and tell somebody."
Yeah, probably the most awesome report. I should have sent those guys to you guys. It's the one from I can't even think of the name of the county. It was a hog hunter that it's a fairly popular report. They were back when I was affiliated with the BFROs. Some of our reports were shared with the BFRO.
Is this the one
But
where the guy was in the tree?
Yeah, in a tree. Well, there's been two
Yeah.
of them. One
Okay.
in
Go
Panola
ahead.
County, Texas, where a guy saw a Bigfoot, come and attack a hog and kill it,
Yep.
and carry it off. And as it was carrying it off, it turned back and looked at him, eye to eye, basically in the tree stand, and let out a horrible, cry, and scared the hell out of him. And another one was a guy that was up in Miller County, Arkansas, up near very near Falk, that in Mercer Bayou, that was a bow hunting up at a tree stand. And this one was recreated on Monster Quest on the Swamp Stalker episode, where he just saw something dark underneath his tree stand and thought it might be a cow or something. It was that big, and it actually stood up and reached up and grabbed the broadhead on his arrow that was glistening in the little bit of light there was, and actually, pricked its finger, and it basically screamed almost in his face. But that was, like I said, recreated on Monster Quest back on the History Channel.
Wow.
Those two are probably the most most exciting reports. I mean, one that stands out to me, and I can't remember if it's in Virginia or West Virginia. Isn't that where you're at, Russ?
Yeah, I'm in West Virginia.
Okay. It was one that I actually passed on. I interviewed him, but I actually passed on to William Dranginis back in the day to interview him but it was a guy that was I think a Baptist preacher, that he and his wife were driving in his old pickup truck, and a Bigfoot walked out into the road, and he was so close he had to slam on the brakes to avoid hitting the, I'll just stick with subject because I don't want to get in the argument about, primates or creature or some type of human, because there's all that crap that goes along with it. Some people think they're some type of human. Personally, my belief is that they are just, an undiscovered, as far as I know, not cataloged by science, as far as I know, or the government, primate, ape of some kind that walks bipedally. I mean, people get all up in an uproar, and we're primates. We are apes, basically. We're primates. So
some of us.
I don't know where they fall in the in the line, and I don't want to bring religion in and argue with anybody, not necessarily you guys, but with anybody on human and evolution versus creation and all that. I think that they're just like any other creature that's on the face of the earth that came about, however. And I think they're very intelligent. I think they're probably pretty darn scarce, even though they're seen all over. But I don't think that we're just, heck, what is the number? I think that's 20 or 30,000 cougars, mountain lions, whatever you want to call them, the population, that much in North America. I certainly don't think it's anywhere near that, and certainly not anywhere near black bears, which are, in the hundreds of thousands.
That was going to be my question.
There's got to be enough for a breeding population to keep going. And I don't know, because I think, like most, primates, pardon me, um, people want to say, oh, they'd be inbred if there was that few. Well, I think most, you know, chimpanzees, gorillas, or, they're not traveling off to impregnate, from
Right.
another troop. They have
Right.
their own hierarchy. And
Well,
so I don't think that inbreeding is a factor that would jeopardize their population necessarily.
right. Dr. Meldrum talked about that at the Ohio Bigfoot Conference last week, stating that gorillas, even with low populations, their recessive genes they don't have a lot of recessive genes, so that as they interbreed, the recessive genes do not become dominant, so therefore they do not show. Unlike humans, which have tons of recessive genes, and so they've adapted to having low populations. You know what I mean? So they can move forward without huge populations. So do you have an estimate?
Deformities and
Right,
deformities and diseases and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Craig, I wanted to ask you, I remember when I really got active, probably, I don't know, 15 or 16 years ago in Bigfoot world, your website, Cryptmundo, was, it was one of the go-tos each day. We opened it up, and if you were a Bigfooter, you looked at that, and there was a couple other ones. And, how did all that get started? And eventually did that, did you just decide you got so many irons in the fire, I don't know how you do all you do as it is.
Well, my brother, my youngest brother that was on the trip where I saw the Bigfoot, of course, he wasn't around when the sighting occurred, but is, a heavyweight in the IT field. And he was noticing in the early 2000s that's when, and it wasn't really blogs, it was more communities that were social networking communities. I'm trying to think what they were called. I remember it was kind of patterned after that. Maybe it was Dogbert and Catbert, but they were, like kind of like miniature at that time MySpace, because Facebook wasn't even out. But it was, the really beginning age of the blogs. Cryptomundo went live on September 26th, I think, of 2005. So yeah, it's been it's been a long time ago, and it was very popular. It crashed for a whole week with the Georgia Bigfoot hoax, because everybody, it was flooded with people coming to read about that, and we had to upgrade the servers like multiple times that week before we could ever keep it online. And
Oh,
it was
wow.
pretty expensive to host it back then. And in the beginning, the ad revenue paid really well when that started out, until about, from 2005 to about 2015, maybe 14, 15. And the ad revenue just started, diminishing greatly. So it became something that wasn't cost effective to put as much effort into it at that time. I had several people we had several people writing for it. He and I co-owned it at that point, at that time, back in when we started it in 2005. And at one point it was the number, I'm trying to remember the exact number, because there was a website that ranked blogs all the way from, not blogs, on websites that ranked, like Yahoo was number one, maybe Google was number two at this time. And Cryptomundo was in the, I'm trying to remember the exact number. It was out of all the, and even then, we're talking, late 2000s. By that time there were, a lot of websites out there, and it was ranked under number 5,000 of all websites on the
Sure.
internet at that
Right.
time.
Yep.
And
So,
go ahead.
I mean, obviously that shows there's a lot of interest in the subject.
Sure.
So especially back then, the only thing that was around, I think, was maybe BFRO.net or something like that. I think
Right.
Bigfoot Evidence was the other one that I was remember that I would always check all the time. Remember that they would always have stories and videos and stuff around the world going on. I don't know where he got all that information. So, checking Cryptomundo. So did you get like leads through that? Did people submit reports to you?
Sure.
You
We
back in the
did
day?
get some reports back in the day. We all, also, the Texas Bigfoot website was up with a report submission form.
Okay.
And so we got, lots and lots of reports, just, certainly not the scale what the BFRO was getting. And like I said, I was actually a member of the BFRO from 2003 to 2005, was the curator for the state of Texas.
Now, did you just decide, hey, I don't want to be in BFR anymore. I'm just going to do a Texas thing,
Well,
or
BFRO was going through some changes then. Matt was rolling out the expeditions and charging people to go on expeditions. And a lot of the senior members of the BFR, the curators, were not on board with that.
Okay.
Actually, if you look at the website path for the expeditions, it still has the original path, which the original expedition Matt wanted to have in Texas in conjunction with my 2003 Texas Bigfoot Conference, but he called it a roundup at the time because Texas, it was going to be the Texas Bigfoot Roundup.
Sure.
And so that the path, when you look at bfro.net /
Yeah. Yep. I'm looking at it right. I'm looking at it right now.
It says
Yep.
/ roundup.
Yep. / Expo 24 something, for the year. So,
but it was originally going to be a Texas Bigfoot Roundup, and I just told him, the weekend of the conference, it's really all me up until the actual event.
right.
But that I just didn't have time to manage, an overnight expedition as well.
Yeah. I mean, and we've done those, and it's a lot harder than people think it is, because you really want to perform. You got people coming in, you're trying to coordinate the camping, the food, the where you're going to go, the night expeditions, the day expeditions, the showing, you're trying to keep people entertained, and, you're doing casting, little casting, demonstrations and sound demonstrations. And you got to get speakers in if, the local guys are going to come in and talk about long distance recorders and all this other stuff. So yeah, it is a lot of work. And I could definitely see, I just didn't know if, a lot of people kind of see like, well, I got kicked out of the BFRO. Well, honestly, I've seen some crazy people in the BFRO, and I've seen Matt yell and argue and, call and say, all this stuff. I've never seen anybody get kicked out of the BFRO.
Yeah.
So,
people left voluntarily.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
There are a couple of people that were removed, but, in the, for the sake of indiscretion, I won't mention any names that I know of. But like I said, I mean, and those were never my strengths. I mean, I wasn't an outdoorsman, a hunter. I mean, I was a Boy Scout when I was a teenager. I mean, I co-founded the organization because I wanted to try and get some answers to what I had seen. It wasn't because, I was an expert wildlife tracker or anything like that. I mean, I assembled a team of people that had, different and varied strengths, and
Sure.
surrounded myself with them. I mean, I was the organizational guy, which is why I'm still doing the conference.
Right.
My strength wasn't, in electronics or, field operations or any. I mean, I did that stuff, but I wasn't the leader on any of that stuff. And
Right.
once, I left the original organization in 2010, and then it became in 2013 NAWAC, and
Is that like
you
North
know
American Wood Ape
Wood Ape
Conservancy?
Conservancy, which is
Mhm.
supposed to sound more scientific
Sure.
than
Non-Bigfoot. Yeah.
non
Um,
Bigfoot, even though
I, I,
even a couple of years later they still hosted the Bigfoot conference. It wasn't called
right.
a Wood Ape conference because that's not going to
No,
appeal
and
to
right.
the
Nobody's going
general
to know what that
public.
is. Right.
No.
I have a question. So I'm
Hmm.
looking at your bio and it says the following TV programs, documentaries, and series. And one of them is called Bigfoot Wars. Well, I didn't know there was a documentary or movie or film done that way. I remember the
Yes.
series of books called
Yeah.
Bigfoot
Well,
Wars, and there was about
it
10
was
of them.
based on the series of books by Eric
Oh,
S.
okay.
Brown, but it
Okay.
was a guy that he also did a version of uh, Boggy. I think the movie was just Boggy Creek. It had nothing to do with the legend of Boggy Creek. It was just, took place in a town called Boggy Creek or whatever. But yes, I knew the director and his wife. Went out on the movie set, got to hang out with C. Thomas Howell, and gave him a Patterson Bigfoot cast. And so I was, I think, credited as possibly a technical consultant or something on that,
Okay.
along with several other films, just because I knew the people and maybe they asked me questions. Uh, I was also like
Well,
involved with
well,
4 different episodes of Finding Bigfoot, from you know recreating my sighting to being in the town hall or recruiting people for the town hall. Different episodes, and with an episode of Monster Quest, the one that was
sure.
shot up
Well,
in southeast Oklahoma as well as down in the Falk area. Um,
um,
so,
because
a lot of it's just been, from knowing people and them including me. I was interviewed back in, actually in 2003. Somebody just sent me, I think yesterday or day before, a screenshot from Southern Fried Bigfoot that actually came out in 2007, and asked me, "Is this you?" And I said, "Yeah, that's over 20 years ago." Um, so I'm a little grayer than I was
right,
back then for sure. But
right.
so
I was
I think I'm just listed as self in or an actor in Southern Fried Bigfoot, but
I was
I've
going to let the
been
readers
involved with.
know, um, if they've never read Bigfoot Wars, they're not very big, thick books, right?
No.
They're not. You're not. It's not a war and peace, and it gets into the action pretty quick, and it's gruesome, and
Hmm.
it gets to the end, and it goes to the next book. So I think back in the day, they came out, and I think I read one, and I think I read Shadow Killer, which we had that author on at the one time. And then I think I read some of the Bigfoot Wars. I'm like, these are little books. So I picked them up somewhere and I started reading them. And I read like 4 or 5 of them, I think. I don't know how many there were.
I should have sent
But
y'all some. I got promotional photos like from um, C. Thomas Howell, that fighting the Bigfoots in that movie, and he cut off one of the heads. I don't know if it was actually in the movie or not, but I've got him, carrying a Bigfoot head, severed head, and him and one of the other guys, uh, going to battle with about 4 or 5 Bigfoots. Um, but it
well,
was
I
a
like I
it was a
said,
cool
it's
experience to go out on the set of the movie while they're filming it, and like I said, to meet C. Thomas Howell and give him a Bigfoot footprint cast and, get some photos and stuff.
Right. Yeah. I just, if people never saw that before or even read them, a lot of people don't even know about it. If you like to read and you got a little bit of time, it's pretty interesting. It's a pretty interesting book. So,
hey, Craig, let me ask you: have you been getting any recent reports? Do you still take reports?
I get them. I don't investigate them myself. I pass them out to other, whatever you want to call them, researchers, investigators that I know and have worked with and known for a while. That I just, I really don't get out in the field anymore. My tent camping days are long over. And like I said, my strength was never that. Although, I interviewed many, many, many people and wrote up the reports. But my strengths were not out in the field. That's why I assembled a team of, everybody from ex-military to law enforcement to, PhDs to, neurosurgeons, a wide array of people that were interested in the subjects and had skills and, I would just say that skills that I didn't have, strengths that I didn't have. And delegate that to them and let them do that. So I've been to Area X, slept in the cabins at Area X way back in the day, and had weird stuff that happened, but I've never seen anything since I started doing field research back in '99. Never had another sighting of anything that I could even claim was a Bigfoot. I've had overnight outings and had weird vocalizations, had something that was circling the camp and sounded like it was breaking um, green tree branches, sound like a rifle shot on a piece of private 20-acre piece of property where had been sightings there, and heard weird sounds and seen weird, the animals on that property, horses, cows, dogs, cats, act very, very strange when stuff was coming around, and but never actually have seen another, figure or creature. Um, it's generally not Bigfoot researchers or investigators that have sightings. I mean, it's just the general public.
Right.
People that are outdoors a lot, people that live out in the country. We did some statistics on our sightings, and the number one category was actually a tie between road crossings or roadside sightings, which mine was, and or hunters out there in the forest. Was the majority of sightings. It wasn't people that were out there looking for Bigfoot. I mean, I know there's some people that claim, to have a sighting every time they go outdoors,
Isn't
or
that the truth?
the people that are into the weird, the
Woo.
woo.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. I'll listen to it, but I mean, I don't give it any credibility myself. I mean, interdimensional portals and extraterrestrials or hollow earth dwellers, or telepathy, or I've never seen, and there's no precedent for it in any type of animals um on earth, as far as um you know cloaking. I mean, you know, I
Right.
agree, or can see cloaking as far as, like, white-tailed deer. I mean, they are colored. Their coloring matches
They're
their
brown. Right.
surroundings, and
Environment.
they can step 10 feet off of a road and disappear, but it's just because they blend in with their surroundings. They're not,
Right.
becoming invisible or transparent where you can see through them. I mean, those things are just so off the wall that, I can't, um, I can't go with those theories. I mean, uh, one thing that I've said before on some sightings, like there's a famous sighting from Ohio that a woman that lived in a very rural cabin and heard something on her porch doorstep and opened the door, and there was a what looked like a Bigfoot creature standing outside her door, and she picked up a shotgun she had laying up against the door frame there for protection and lowered the shotgun and shot at it, and it disappeared in a flash of light or whatever. And I mean, I wasn't there, so I can't say it didn't happen. And one thing that I think about
I
is
could probably
because,
say it didn't happen. She fired,
well,
it stepped away, and there was a flash of light because the gun went off. But anyway,
sure,
um,
it very well could be, but there's people that claim to have experiences, encounters with spirits of even animals, with pets,
sure,
dogs and cats.
there's people
Where
that love
and
trees.
I've had whatever you want to call it, spiritual activity, encounters, or ghostly stuff happen. If there's if people have had experiences with the ghost of pets, which are animals, who knows? Maybe somebody has had an experience with the ghost of a Bigfoot. I can't say unequivocally 1,000% no, it could never happen. I mean, I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
That's
I
Bigfoot,
mean,
right?
there's a lot we don't know. I mean, I was just recently talking about this too, about like my Bigfoot sighting was maybe 6 or 7 seconds. And for
Right.
people to, just like most experiences aren't any duration of time, because in my opinion, if somebody has a Bigfoot sighting, first of all, there's got to be two things that happen. There's got to be a Bigfoot there, and there's got to be a person to actually see it. And I think in most cases that it's an accident on the Bigfoot's part, that they did get seen by a person.
Correct.
They
Yeah.
seem to be, it's almost like a catch-22. They're very, shy and elusive, but, I've also gotten reports where they're very curious about human activities, like in rural houses, where the wife may be washing dishes at the kitchen sink and just happens to look out through the kitchen window and see something large, hulking figure there looking in or whatever.
Sure.
I mean, I've investigative reports where they've come into actual campsites, um, and rifled through stuff, or just come through a campsite. This was a good friend of mine that was when he was a college student, was out with his college professor, out in near Nacogdoches, and I'm trying to think, Angelita National Forest, that they were an outing, a camping trip with his professor and other students, and one came into their campsite in the middle of the night and left footprints, and they actually had the park rangers or whoever, fish and wildlife, come out there and cast a track. Um, so I mean, oh, sorry, I've gotten way off track. Speaking of tracks,
No, that's all right.
That's
No,
all
we
right.
like it. We like stories. That's what we
Yeah.
like is
but
stories. So
We are
well, we are
winding down. Go ahead, Brad.
right. We are coming to an end. I was gonna say we are coming to an end here. You do have the Texas Bigfoot Conference. Is that coming up at some
yes,
point?
it's coming up in October. We're always the third weekend, which by the mayor of Jefferson at the time, signed they actually wrote it and authored it and signed it in 2005, that the third weekend in October in Jefferson is officially Texas Bigfoot Weekend. And then, like
Okay.
I said, in 2017, I authored the one that made Texas, Jefferson, the Bigfoot capital of Texas, because I saw at some
Sure.
outdoor festival in Georgia, Greenwood, Georgia, I believe, that they had one Bigfoot speaker that was at the event, and so the city council claimed that I think it's Greenwood, Georgia, was the Bigfoot capital of Georgia, and I said, well, hell, I could do that. I mean, same way when I first went to the Ohio Bigfoot Conference, I went to my very first one was in 2000,
Right.
and held in the cafeteria at an elementary school, and I said, you know what? There's nothing like this in Texas. I bet I could do this.
Right.
And at that time, there wasn't probably, but the Ohio conference was going, but an annual event was like there may have been two others in the United States. Bigfoot Days in Bluff Creek, California, and then the Ohio Bigfoot Conference, but there wasn't anything that was an annual event. And so my very first one was actually 4 days after 9/11 in 2001, September 15th, 2001. And I had Lauren Coleman and could not, fly in, and what's her name? Linda Moulton Howe couldn't fly in because air traffic didn't even start back up until that Friday afternoon. 9/11 was on Tuesday, and I can't believe that we started air traffic that soon after all that. But we still had 130 people that showed up the very first one, and been doing it almost every year since.
That's great.
All right.
How can people reach out to get tickets for that?
Yeah,
they can look it up on Facebook. Look up the 2024 Texas Bigfoot Conference, or on Eventbrite, the ticketing site.
okay.
Look up that. There's links, of course, on Facebook to that ticketing site. Jeff Meldrum will be speaking. He hasn't been here in Texas since 2021. Lyle Blackburn, who's like my best friend and somebody I met through Bigfoot. We've got Haskell Hart, Dr. Haskell Hart, PhD, that wrote a book about DNA, Bigfoot DNA, and countering some of Melba Ketchum's claims. And he's also conducting eDNA studies up in southeast Oklahoma. And Chester Moore and Ken Gerhard.
Okay.
Also, so that's in October. I also host the Falk Monster Festival in April in Falk, Arkansas, the home of the Legend of Boggy Creek. I'm trying to get started back up on my Bigfoot Film Festival. I've only held that 1 year, but
let us know about that.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Well,
I'm gonna
films, you gotta have y'all seen Exists?
Yeah.
Best Bigfoot film ever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Eduardo Sanchez is a genius, and the writer and director of Blair Witch Project. As a matter of fact, just a little snippet. I know y'all are about to cut me off, but the first overnight Bigfoot outing I did was the weekend after I saw the Blair Witch Project in 1999, and I was creeped out.
I would have been too.
Hey, Craig, I hope that we get to see each other again in person, and I really appreciate you taking time, man.
Hey, no problem.
And
glad to talk to you guys. I really don't do a lot of podcasts anymore. If it's somebody that I don't know and consider a friend, I don't do them.
Well, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
No problem.
All right, have a good one.
Happy to get on. Okay, guys, have a good one.
All right,
bye.
All right, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, so I'll post that on the show notes. The 2024 Texas Bigfoot Conference.
Subscribe.
Yep,
please,
Russ. I know, Russ. You got to eat.
Yeah, I know, right, man?
You're withering. I can tell you're withering throughout the show.
Yeah.
Yep. So anything else? Like, subscribe. I was told that we're going to have a season 2 upgrade of our look. So I think they're going to get rid of this logo.
Okay.
Because there is more than one person on this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah.
People.
Yeah.
But you're the. Did I tell you what happened at the conference?
No.
So I'm standing by next to one of our podcast guys, Tim Holleran from Bigfoot
Yeah.
Influencers, and this guy walks up and he's talking to Tim, and guy looks right at me and he goes, "Where's Russ Jones?" I'm like, "Really?" He's like, "Well, why? I know you guys are together, but I'd like to get a picture of you with Russ." It's like, well, I don't know where Russ is at right now, but Tim's
See, he
like,
wanted
"We'll
to
take
picture
a
both
picture."
of us.
Tim's like, "We'll take a picture of Brad and me," and he's like, "No, I just want to Russ. We need to
Oh,
find
whatever. Oh, whatever.
Russ."
Whatever.
It was true. It was absolutely true. So anyway, all right,
All right.
we're out of here, right?
Thanks, everybody.
Later.